People who lost their jobs by going off on a customer. What is your story? Disneyland. I worked in the ticket booths. If you're an annual pass holder and you're on a monthly contract, Disney takes automatic payments from your credit card. If your card expires or otherwise has to be changed, and you don't call to put a new card on file, the auto payments stop and your pass freezes. No big deal. Disney doesn't hit you with fees or penalties. You simply call or come to the booth, and we handle it right then and there. Zippity-doo-dah, and in you go. One day, I get a middle-aged couple whose passes froze. The man was upset and ready to talk about it. A common question from guests is, don't you send out late notices? No, Disney doesn't, because they're not practical. And again, there are no penalties anyway. Just come see us and we'll straighten you out. The man says to me in a disgusted tone, you don't send notices when a pass freezes? How does that work? I said, well, you receive your credit card statement. You see that a recurring charge is not present on it, and you can expect the service related to the recurring charge to be interrupted, and that it must be related to your card having been replaced recently. The wife smiled, the man's face reddened, and he leaned in and barked, get your supervisor. I want to talk to somebody smart. To my shame, I said, of course. Would you like someone smart enough to stay aware of their credit card use, or merely smart enough to read contracts they sign? My booth lead happened to come over as soon as she heard supervisor, so she was standing behind me when I said the emotional thing. It isn't how I wanted to go out. I was 5 days away from leaving for a new job, but I looked at it as a vicariously cathartic mic drop goodbye to my fellow cast members. For them, it was a thrill. Back around 1969, I saw a service advisor at a VW dealership get fired for telling an irate customer, if you can't take a joke, you shouldn't have bought a Volkswagen. I was lucky I didn't lose my job for this one. I worked at a furniture store as a sales associate. One day a husband and wife come in wanting to furnish their son's apartment that's going to college. They find all of the furniture pieces they want and I go to check stock on multiple items. Everything is in except the tabletop on the dining room set they wanted. I go back and tell the couple. The husband throws an absolute hissy fit saying that he can't believe that we don't keep our product stocked. Keep in mind that we are a huge furniture store. I calmly explained to him that we can't possibly keep all of our product in stock at all times, and since the dining room table he wanted was a very popular set, due to the fact it was $199.99, it tended to go out of stock rather quickly. So, we would have to wait for that vendor to send us the tabletop, which was about 2 weeks. I even tried to show them another tabletop that was in stock that was very similar to the one they picked out, and he would not have it. He started telling me that I was incompetent and how dare I insult him. Insult him how? I have no idea. He starts increasing his volume and now he is full out screaming at me about 10 inches away from my face. My manager walks from around the corner and looks at me questioningly, like the "do you got this" face. I nodded at him that I had it, but he continued to stand within earshot. I then looked back to the customer and said in a nonchalant tone, I'm not going to help you. In fact, no one here is going to help you. Now please get out of my store. The customer looks at me bewildered and in full set rage and demands to speak with my manager. Since my manager is standing right around the corner, he had heard everything. He goes over to the customer and says, well, you heard the lady. I miss working there. Oh man, I've been dying to tell this story for a while now. Although it doesn't pertain to someone getting fired, it does have some justice. A friend and I go to a store. Let's make it up and call it Walmart. We're in line at the registers when this middle-aged lady in front of us is trying to use some expired coupons. The cashier is telling her the coupons can't be used. Mind you, these coupons would save her $4. A fact that I realized after this entire ordeal. That lady wasn't having it and just starts insulting and yelling the cashier as if it's their fault the coupons expired. And not smuggish insults like no wonder you work here, but some deep cutting stuff like you should kill yourself if you can't override and accept them. Like WTF. This bee was out for blood for $4 fricking dollars. That's when my friend, who's a former Marine, steps in and reams back into her. The exchange went something like, him, whoa, how dare you disrespect this young cashier like that? The heck is wrong with you to say things like that to her? You're a messed up person. B. Mind your business and don't raise your voice at me. Him. Oh, so now you know that raising your voice is disrespectful. Where was that consideration when you did it to her? Stop talking to me or I'll get my husband here to handle you. Him. What husband? You don't even have a wedding ring on. That's probably the problem there. You're so bitter and lonely you take it out on other people. You're messed up. They exchange more comments and it ended with her storming out of the store without her items and on the verge of tears. I guess we attracted too much attention because we were asked to leave by the manager but not before the cashier quietly thanked us. Reading through these comments, I realize that not very many Redditors have not worked in a fast food restaurant in any ghetto areas. Arguments were an everyday thing where I worked, as the manager at KFC. I know, I'm a big shot. I encouraged my employees to stick up for themselves. More than once a day, I'd have people coming in attempting to rip us off, or get more food than what they paid for, then insulting and even attacking me at times. The only reason I quit is because I had cooks and cashiers who were making more than me. But yeah, the job was pretty much a free-for-all when it came to crappy customers. I used to cut hair. I was cutting a lady's hair when the child of lady waiting started running around the shop. I told the child several times to go sit with her mother and asked her mother to please keep her child seated next to her. Well, in the middle of cutting around my client's ear, the child ran into my work area, ran into me and almost caused me to cut my client. I looked at the child and firmly said, "You need to go sit down with your mother now." Well, her mom didn't like that and came running back to me and yelled, "Don't tell my child what to do. I'm her parent." I responded with "Then act like it." She glared at me, grabbed her child and stormed out. Everyone in the shop was relieved the child had left. A few days later the owner came and tried to fire me for it, but luckily there were enough other stylists and clients that came to my defense about the danger of the situation and I only got a write-up. Many a year ago I worked at a home improvement store called Menards. I was a cart pusher, which was nice as I was outside all the time. Anyway, we gather about 25-30 shopping carts together and push them up to the entrance where they are stored inside. Now to get them there we do have to cross the main drive of the parking lot in front of the store. We always stop and let customers drive by. So as I push the carts up I stop because I see a guy in a pretty nice SUV. He is actually stopped in front of the entrance. Maybe he dropped someone off, I do not know. So I'm waiting to see if he drives off and he then looks at me and waves me across. Looks like he wanted to finish a call he had gotten or something. So I wave back and start pushing the carts across. I am on the other side when some clips me across the shoulder blades and it stung somewhat and pushed me forward. And at the same time I heard glass shatter. I turn around and the guy in the SUV clipped me with his side view mirror. It had swung closed and shattered the window in the door. And I'm just standing there wide-eyed. 2 seconds later the guy gets out of his car swearing up a storm at me and how I'm a low-life piece of crap and how I'm going to pay for a new window and that I'm not going to get anywhere in life because I broke his window. Now I'm the type of person that if I was the reason I'll take the blame and fix the problem. But this guy hit me. I blew up on him for about 5 minutes before a manager finally had the guts to come over and pull me away. I didn't have to pay for a new window as it was on video, but I lost my job because we are not supposed to yell and cuss at the customer. Edit. Holy crap. New year and Reddit gold. Thanks guys. That's bulls. The minute someone hits you with their car they are no longer the customer, they are that butthole who hit me with their car. I used to work in the restaurant industry as a chef. We had a closed kitchen at this particular spot, so customers couldn't see what was being done in the kitchen. It was nice because we could listen to music and joke around without having to worry. Anyways, one day I was alone on the line and a server came to me and said a customer wanted to give me his compliments. No problem. I put on my nicer jacket and went out to say hi. The customer thanks me, then tells me to come in closely because he had a secret. I was like, okay sure, so I'll lean in a little. He motions me closer. I move in a little more. This guy then goes, "I'll meet you in the bathroom in 5 minutes," and grabs my balls. I freaking lost it and shoved the dude. Got fired immediately. I used to work at pizza place in a small town when I was a teenager. One night I took a phone order from some idiot woman. It went like this. Me. "Thank you for calling pizza place. May I take your order?" IW. "Yes, I'd like a large pizza. Half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives." Me. "Okay. Did you want the toppings combined or separated?" IW. "No, I want half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. Okay, so you want 1/3 pepperoni, 1/3 sausage, and 1/3 black olives? IW. No, I want half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. I understand the toppings that you want, but I'm not understanding how you want us to put the toppings on your pizza. Do you want them separated by thirds, combined together, or do you mean put half the amount that we usually put on? IW. What's so hard to understand? I want half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. Lady, there's only 2 halves to a pizza. IW. I want to speak to your manager. I got fired on the spot. It was easier for the manager to just hire another person than it was to lose a customer in a small town. Oh, and the lady wanted the toppings divided into thirds. She told the manager the same thing and he just went with her math. The B also got it for free. That seems like a really stupid thing to be fired for over a misunderstanding. It's not like you called her a stupid bee. Was a stockroom assistant at a well-known fashion chain in the UK and US. Didn't go off on a customer, but I bloody well wish I did now. Happened to be behind tills changing hangers boxes when a customer explodes at the trainee cashier demanding to know where her order was. She's screaming her head off at how it's unacceptable I paid extra and how she made a specific detail to collect her package. She had ordered a jacket in another branch and had paid for next day delivery to the store I worked in. Customers aren't supposed to come collect their orders until they get an email saying their order is ready to collect. The poor cashier started last week and is basically cowering for dear life. I take over and ask to see her email, which she explains she doesn't need because she paid extra, so her package must be here. After 10 minutes of me trying to explain why her package isn't ready to collect and her trying to challenge Krakatoa, she storms off shouting that she'll be having words with the guy who owns our company. I hand back to the cashier and carry on with my day. The next day I'm prepping our delivery and I get called for a meeting with the store manager. I'm told I'm being let go for gross misconduct, specifically being unhelpful and challenging to customers. Turns out the customer was a journalist for the Daily Mail and she called our head of company, who she did indeed know personally, and got me fired specifically. TLDR. Tried to reason with the Daily Mail journalist. Got fired for her stupidity. Yay for logic. Edit. Her jacket did indeed come an hour after she left the store. She came back with her email. Sweet victory. Journalist and Daily Mail. Hilarious stuff. Worked at GameStop as a game advisor. Some guy came in and had a figurative buttload of games, over 100, to trade, all with games and cases mismatched. It took about 45 minutes to process his ticket. When I told him the total, it was low, because GameStop and also they were all old, scratched games. This man then proceeded to try and negotiate with me, to which I kept telling him I can't change the price, which only made him angrier and louder. Eventually he yelled, "Listen you stupid N. I need at least $300 for all of this crap and you're going to give it to me. First of all, I don't even have the ability to change the price at all. Second of all, my co-worker proceeded to put all of his games in a bag, walk outside and toss them into the parking lot, and told the guy to take his racist cousin fricking butt somewhere else and to frick off. Store manager came out of the back room and fired him dead on the spot. The guy stormed out, and the second he left, my manager said, "Jesus, what was his freaking problem? Alright, get back to work." My co-worker didn't get fired, it was just theatrics for the racist C. I felt like an idiot for just standing there, but it was taking everything I had to not hop the counter and hit the guy. Love the theatrics trick. A good manager knows how to use it. No one was fired over this, but as a person in the service industry, I thought I'd share this with my fellow industry folk, as I still think it's one of my favorite things I've ever seen happen behind a bar. I was once working at a beer bar in Sarasota, Florida. We were having a Dogfish Head total tap takeover and the place was at capacity. I mean, we're 3 deep around the entire bar. 4 guys behind this tiny bar, including the owner, all trying to pour as many beers as we can to cut through the line. At some point, a guy who I'd made eye contact with a number of times, who should have known he was coming up next, yells, "What does a person have to do to get a beer around here?" I watched our owner, a New Yorker through and through, turn around and literally yell, Everyone shut the frick up, the place goes dead quiet, and he stares at this guy. What can I get for you? So the guy was caught so off guard he just stared up at our tat list and mumbled. Our owner, knowing he didn't even have an order ready, looked him dead in the eye and said, "Frick you." Next, and started serving the person next to him. I wanted to hug him so much for that. I didn't lose my job, but I think most people would have blown up at this guy, or cried. Fortunately, I am extremely calm and collected, and tough, from being bullied so much in middle school probably. I worked at a large retail store and was stocking a shelf when an old, like 80+ man came up to me. I assumed he was going to ask me where something was like every other customer. Instead, he started going off on me, just insult after insult, telling me I'm disgusting, and all these things like that, because I have tattoos. Instead of blowing up at him, I thanked him for the compliments, sugar dripping from my voice. In my head I was saying you'll be dead soon, but out loud, I said something along the lines of, I really love the color of your pants. Is that seafoam green polyester? I think the 1970s must have been so cool. Where did he even get those pants? A museum? Well, apparently someone witnessed all this, because about 10 minutes after the guy gave up, my manager came up to me looking furious. I remember feeling a horrible sense of dread. He blew up, but not about how I handled it. He said I should have called him immediately and he would have kicked the guy out of the store, and that I didn't deserve to be treated like that. What a great manager. I worked as a server at an upscale country club and had these two gentlemen come in for lunch. One ordered and the other said, "I'll have exactly the same thing." So I confirmed that's what he wanted and he replied, "That's what I said, right?" I bring out their lunch and the second guy complains and starts getting rude with me because his lunch has onions on it. So I say, "Sir, you said you wanted the exact same thing, but I can have the chef make you another one." So he says, "Listen to me, you little freaking butthole. I know what I said and I never said I wanted onions." So I reply, "If you ever speak to me like that again, you and I are going to step outside and work this out." He pisses and moans to see the manager, who unbeknownst to me is sitting at the table right behind these guys having a meeting with another member. She turns around and tells the guy, "After the way you talk to my employee, I should let him. How about you both apologize and move on?" PS. I didn't get fired but thought I should share a story where a manager actually stands up for an employee. In hindsight, she probably should have fired me because threatening violence on someone probably wasn't the best idea. Oh well, when you're 19 you think you're invincible. Managers with spines are way too dang uncommon. You don't even have to be a dong. Just be honest. Look, sir, you misspoke. It isn't what you wanted, so we'll make it a game for you. But in the future be sure you order what you actually want. This whole bend over backwards and crap on your own employees is silly these days. A woman came into a charity shop and complained about every single item loudly to the 10 or so customers in there, along the lines of, "This is all crap. Who pays for this? Like we're some boutique with clothes from the back of a van." She clearly didn't understand how rarely new clothes, still tagged ETC, are donated. Then she got in my face about it. I was so angry with her for chasing away the people that came in that I lost my cool. There was nobody left except her since she'd ranted them into leaving. I told her to get out and I didn't give a crap about the clothes or her opinions. She screams her way out of the shop, broadcasting it to everyone on the street. She came back once the manager was off their break and complained again, so I lost my job fairly soon after. I can't blame them. I'd have done the same. Sounds like she had bigger problems than clothes if she was like that. Charity shops are great places anyway. You can find some great stuff in them. I once found a good telescope in one for £20. Good thread. This actually happened to my friend today. Working at Buffalo Wild Wings. Keep in mind New Year Eve, one of busiest nights of the year. Opening employees have been in by 8 AM to prep food and get the store ready. But no manager is there to open the store. 2 employees walk to work and stand in cold for almost 2 hours when another shows up with a phone to call the general manager and ask what's going on. Turns out the opening shift manager forgot they were supposed to open. So general manager shows up to let employees in on her day off. Stays until the scheduled manager shows up. Now keep in mind everyone is nearly 2 hours behind on their opening duties, and when Mrs. Late Manager shows up does nothing and sits down to do her makeup. She then asked my friend to do her opening duties while she fixes herself up. He declined because he had crap to do himself and hey you know shouldn't been late and now you're here do your own work. About 20 minutes later after doing her makeup she then said she needs to fix her hair and again asks my friend to do her work at this point after standing in the cold for nearly 2 hours and rushing to get 3 hours of work into 1 hour. Because of her tardiness he snaps back why don't you do it yourself she replies well do you just want to go home he says frick yes and walks out. General manager texted a bit later asking what happened and he said she told me to go home so I did and I won't be back. Have your friend make sure he gets paid for the time waiting outside. Had a customer that, for at least a year, came into our store and was a master tactician in getting free goods by making up complaints against our staff. He would do all sorts of maneuvers like wanting products he knew we didn't carry to making up complaints about our staff to even complaining that he had been charged incorrectly. If this guy was in the store, good luck if you were another customer. He would suck up all the oxygen in the place and demand service from multiple people at the same time. He got reduced prices and free merchandise and tons of coupons for his efforts. My boss would never challenge this guy or protect his own staff from being exposed to losing their job to a customer who would happily see a member of our crew fired so he could get $5 off his next purchase. My boss wasn't entirely at fault since this was a giant corporation and he was merely towing the fabled the customer is always right mantra. I was already planning on leaving for a better opportunity and was going to give notice of resignation 1 week when this customer started giving me an incredibly difficult time about an issue I had nothing to do with and couldn't help him with. It was extremely busy and he was holding everyone up with his bulls. I made a quick value judgment, realized I was already out the door and the only thing I was still there to do was to honor my appropriate resignation notice. I had no designs of ever working for this horrible company or any company like it ever again. I found myself in a unique situation and wasn't going to let the opportunity pass. This guy had made life difficult for all of us for a long time. Payback time. I cut this guy off mid-sentence and just went off on him in front of a number of customers and part of our staff. I told him he was nothing more than a cheapskate grifter and told him I would no longer recognize him as a living, breathing member of our species. Then I told him to go frick himself. The look on his face was so goddamned beautiful. The entire store fell into silence and I just stared him down. He asked to speak to my manager and I doubled down by talking over his head, inviting the customer behind him to elbow up to the counter. I apologized to the new customer about the bad behavior of the guy who, at this point, had steam coming out of his ears. Eventually when he realized he was getting nowhere waiting on me, he stormed off to find the manager. I finished my shift. I came back in the following day, was intercepted by a corporate manager I had rarely seen, taken upstairs and was getting lectured. I interrupted the scolding, revealed my intentions to leave this place, and quit right there. I got a lot of high fives from the other members of the staff on my way out the door. Oh, I'm sorry Mr. Corporate Manager. I think you misunderstand. I don't give a frick what you think either. Didn't get fired for this one, and it was glorious. Used to work in this little Thai place in town, and we had these teenagers who came in every Sunday, were rude and demanding, and tipped 0%. One day they're exceptionally awful to a new waitress, reducing her to tears, and so my boss calls me over. Next time they come, you take them, and you earn that 0% tip. I do a bit of a double take. She can't possibly mean what I think she means. You mean she nods and gives me this smile that is equal parts devious and smug. A week later they come and 5 minutes into my shift, she seats them in my section, smiles at me and tells me to do my worst. Here is a fairly detailed account of the wonderful 45 minutes that followed. I wait a good 5 minutes before going to greet them and bring waters. They're ready to order. I don't have a pen. I'll be right back, I promise. I loudly tell my manager I'm going out for a smoke, and then go power smoke a cigarette. Takes me about 90 seconds. They're my only table and I'm not handling food yet, so I don't wash my hands. I reek of smoke. I take her order, pad thai no bean sprouts like always. As he opens his mouth to tell me he'll have the same, I give him the just a minute finger and pull out my phone. I text my fiance and ask if he wants to get dinner from my place or his tonight. I take his order. I somehow misunderstand and write down extra bean sprouts. Their food comes up while I'm telling my boss and the other waitress a story about my cat. I finish telling the story before I get their food. I bring it out and walk away as they're starting to complain about the sprouts. About 5 minutes after they get the food, I get a second table. One is a customer from a former job of mine and we spend a few minutes catching up when I go to greet them. The 0%s try to signal me as I leave the table, but I stare straight ahead. I come back for my new table's order and see that their glasses are missing roughly 4 sips of water. This simply won't do. I hang their ticket and come back to fill their glasses. I look at 0%s empty glasses, look the guy straight in the eye, smile, and walk away. He stops me as I'm walking over with apps for my new table and asks for boxes. I tell him I'll grab them right after I drop off this food. I play a game of 2048 all the way up to 1024 before bringing them one small box. They ask for 2 bigger boxes and the check. I promise I'll be right back, and then ask my boss to keep an eye on the table I like while I go smoke again. Obviously I don't usually take this many smoke breaks, especially not this early into a shift. I come back and my boss tells me they came to her for boxes and to pay and told her they're never coming back. She voids their check, gives me the $20 some dollars, and tells me I earned it. Dang, that sounds fun to be honest. You have been visited by the grandmother gymnast comment, my body is my temple, so you can do that when you're old. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.